Hello everyone, this is Erik, the Asian movie enthusiast, and this is my review of Resurrection of the Little Match Girl, a Korean sci-fi action comedy blockbuster from 2002 that is still, to this day, one of the biggest box office bombs in the history of South Korean cinema. It was also a critical failure, and it failed to make a big splash with normal moviegoers as well. So, not many people like this movie, but I do, so I wanted to review it. We're going back in time to revisit this disastrous release. A food delivery man enters a video game that attempts to rescue the mysterious Match Girl from thugs. To restaurant delivery boy Ju, the only joy in life is spending time in the electronic game rooms, and one day, Ju is advised to log on to a game called Resurrection of the Little Match Girl. The match-selling girl of Hans Christian Andersen's 1845 fairytale is revived through this game, and Ju is drawn into the girl's virtual reality. And as reality and cyberspace interchange, like in the famous fairytale, is given a mission to save the girl from danger. This is a weird one, folks. When I first saw this movie, I had no idea regarding the connections with the fairy tale, which I never read or at least don't remember reading. So yes, they do give us a quick summary of it at the beginning of the film, set in modern-day Korea, where this little girl is selling lighters, I think in the original tale she was selling, matches, and everyone denies giving her money. You know what I mean? They disrespect her, so she dies of starvation and freezing in the street in the snow. Then, the opening title appears of the film. So the fact that this story is the foundation of a modern action comedy is completely ridiculous. These things have nothing to do with one another. So you take this fairy tale about this match girl who died and a modern action comedy and you smash them together. And that's the first thing that you need to point out when talking about this movie. It's almost as if an auteur director or an art house director decided to make an extremely oddball and nutty blockbuster film. And that's basically what you get here. The director, Jang Sung-woo, came from a lower budget background before making this, and Resurrection of the Little Match Girl was such a financial failure, it may have destroyed his entire career to the point of ending it, because he hasn't made a film since this one. And I can only assume that the box office failure led to that, at least partially. And that was 22 years ago, folks. Now, after you watch this movie, if you choose to do so, you will understand why it was met with a cold reception. The character development is not very good. There's not much depth here. The combination of these different elements is very odd, and it incorporates video game-like elements, which I will not spoil. But as you could probably guess, this is a little bit sloppy. However, the budget allows for quite a bit of action in the form of plentiful kinetic shootout scenes that are fun to watch, and there's a big reason for this. These action set pieces consist primarily of gun-based shootouts that are nicely executed, but at the same time are intentionally absurd to the point of becoming a parody of the action genre on the whole. And they do work because the characters play it with a straight face. This movie puts a smile on my face when I watch it. There's a funny little attack scene involving a motorcycle during Act 1. There's a shootout in a warehouse area, again involving a motorcycle, and this transitions into another gunplay scene in a nightclub. But the best set piece in this movie, and I don't want to spoil it, alright? It's in the middle of the film, and it's very long. It involves the match girl, and it reminded me of the crazy shenanigans I used to pull while playing a certain video game franchise. And you might know which game franchise I'm talking about when you watch that scene, because this film is worth watching for the big set piece in the middle of the film alone. It's entertaining and blackly humorous, and it parallels the fairy tale in ridiculous ways. And then you get a finale, which is like an infiltration into a mysterious complex. Lots of explosions, gunfire. It does become very much like a video game at the very end. Has a few Matrix-like action beats, and this is probably the cheesiest section of the film, as well as the weirdest. It gets weird, but I liked it. So there is some creative stuff here. I think the action scenes are fun. Now, the humor is pretty good. Early on, you get a lot of angry characters who yell at each other, which is always amusing in some ways. There are times where people get dangerously violent in response to disrespect, which I just find hilarious. Now, this is maybe the only slightly controversial aspect of the film, if only because it mirrors real-life tragedies involving guns, you know what I mean? And you might see those parallels as I did as well. But within the context of the film, I think the black humor works. Now, I've always liked Lim Young-kyun as an actress. She plays the match girl in this. She has a certain look about her that's beautifully expressionistic. And her filmography is only like 4 or 5 movies or something like that, which includes the Korean horror film Dollmaster from 2004. So if you've seen that one, you will recognize her. So anytime you see her in a movie, it's kind of special because her filmography is just so small. And her character in this movie acts like a non-playable character, an NPC, for much of the first half, but they give her some fun stuff to do later. So, folks, I'm in the minority here, but I enjoy this historic box office bomb of a film. I think it's odd, it's a little bit nutty, but because it's unusual, creative, and entertaining, it becomes like a very watchable fluff piece that I can get behind. If any of you decide to watch this, I'm very curious to hear your opinions, because I'm not sure how many people are going to enjoy it, but it's currently streaming on YouTube with subtitles. The video quality, not very good on that stream, so I guess that's the downside of finding it nowadays, but if you could track down the old DVD at reasonable prices, that's probably the better option. And as always, folks, I'll see you next time.